Welcome to our show, Tough Talks Unlimited, co-hosted by Derrick Bowles and myself, Michael Garth. In this show, we're going to hear from world-class leaders and innovators, people who are willing to have positive conversations and share their insights on tough talks to get you through tough times. Let's get started. Well, everybody, we're back. We're back. Derrick Bowles and Mike Garland on Tough Talks Unlimited, where we talk about everything. And today's guest will be No, let's start over again.
No, you're good. You're good. We won't have to do anything.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome back. I guess it's better to say that we're back. We have a special guest here this afternoon, Silas Lagoy. Silas is a financial expert. And if you're like me, any advice you can get about your money, I'm willing to take it. But our show is powered by Unstoppables and also Maximum Execution Solutions. And we're looking forward to getting our shows back on the air. I was going to say the road, but you have to forgive me for my old school. But Silas, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And I'm excited because two things pop into my mind. I mean, Silas and I have started to build a really strong relationship, and I'm trying to figure out how to get my finances correct. And he shared that he had some information that I thought could be powerful for some of our listeners, for some of the people who tune into our show. And so, first I would like to say thank you for taking time. But not only that, tell us a little bit about what's happening in the financial market right now. Is that a good way to start the conversation?
Yes, we'll dive right in. And when you're looking at the financial industry, there's a major issue in finance today. When you think about it, it's like, what is that biggest issue? Well, it's not only we're seeing it in the financial industry with experts and advisors and planners working in the industry, but we're also seeing it in your average American home. There is a lack of financial education here in America. You look at our school systems, and we're not teaching finance. Less than 8% of high schools in America now require any personal finance classes.
Wow.
Less than 8%. And so when you look around, the majority of Americans are struggling financially, but they're not taught anything about finances. And then when you look into the financial industry, we're seeing the same problems pop up with financial experts, is that they're not taught finance. They're taught a very limited view on what they represent. And so you go through our college systems today, and the books were written 60, 70 years ago, and they're focused on specific products, and they're not being educated and kept up to date.
Well, Silas, can you get a little more specific with that particular statement that you just made? What is it? When we start talking about this, and you're saying there's a lack of education, and even those who are supposed to be financial experts don't really understand. I'm going to call it a game, the way it should be played today. What is it specifically? Can you give us 2 or 3 key points?
Yes, absolutely. So when you're looking at finance, and I've always had a motto, life's a game, you just have to know how to play it.
Absolutely.
Finance is definitely that way. Finance is a game that most people don't know how to play. That's why they're not doing well. So when we're talking about individuals and the lack of education there, when I ask clients this all the time, but if you're struggling financially, who do you call? And the typical answer I get is, well, I guess an advisor. Okay, which one?
Yeah.
And this goes into the industry and the lack of education in the industry, because you have several different sides of the industry: banking, securities, insurance. You have hundreds of different companies, and they're all representing their company. But the problem is they have limited access to products and services based off of what they represent. And so as an individual, we try to get financial help We try to learn more about finances, and everybody's telling us something different. We go on the internet and we hear, all these different opinions, and what it does, it just confuses the average American, and so they don't get help.
Right.
And then the last big point when it comes to finances, wealthy Americans play by different rules.
Yes.
They have access to a different line of products. They have access to other services, and then they get different treatment. So when you're looking at, why are we given a lack of financial education? Why aren't we taught about advanced strategies that we can utilize to help better ourselves and our families financially through the industry? It's because they only represent the products that you have access to.
That's interesting.
Right.
A lot of your more major firms, they have minimums set that you have to have a minimum amount of assets before they're going to build you plans. Or if you cross a certain threshold, typically $1 million threshold, you get access to a totally different line of products that average Americans are not getting educated on.
Now, is that something that a particular company would determine, or is that designed by law?
So it's really determined by the individual companies. And there's a lot of reason for that, but most companies don't want to work with you unless you have a lot of money, because they obviously make more money with people who have a lot of money. And so companies will set their own regulations. It's not governed by law.
Right.
And so when you find companies that are willing to help you without minimums, that makes a major difference, because then you're getting access to the products and services that wealthy Americans get access to.
Absolutely. Well, when you were, when you're actually meeting with someone or advising, and someone comes to you and says, Silas, you know what? I have no money saved for retirement. I don't have an emergency fund. I'm just kind of living pay to check. Pay to check. I wish that was the case. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Where do I begin? I just can't seem to save money. I just don't, can you help me? Can you give me a strategy for getting there?
Yeah. So the very first thing that I'll turn around and ask another question back to the client, because when you're looking at finances and you're in this situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of Americans are, less than 40% of Americans can afford $1,000 emergency without putting it on a credit card.
Oh boy.
Right now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of Americans are in this situation.
Right.
Before I ever went to the gym, if I took someone who's never been to the gym and I said, all right, I want you to go bench 200 pounds, it's probably not happening.
Absolutely.
Right.
But if I get in the gym and I start benching 20 pounds or 50 pounds and then 75, 100, 200, next thing I know, I'm benching 250 pounds, but I had to work up to it. Savings is a muscle.
Yep.
So the question I ask my clients is, why are you in this situation?
Right.
Really, why are you in this situation? The lack of financial education. They weren't taught the importance of it. They weren't taught the importance of saving and investing, paying yourself first. Most people spend first and pay themselves what's left, and there's nothing left.
Absolutely.
And I've sat down with clients who make, to prove the point, I've sat down with clients who make $50,000 a year and are saving money every paycheck.
Wow.
Right.
I've sat down with other clients who are making $250,000 a year and couldn't afford $1,000 if they wanted to.
Wow.
It's a lot of it's that muscle. And so what we do is we start teaching that education, changing the mindset, showing them the importance of it. And hey, we don't have to start big. Let's start really small, but then we can work our way up.
Right. I always like to tell a story. I had a very good friend. His name was Sam Villa. And he was very frugal with his money, and he had money, and he was actually a bread truck driver. And, at that time, I had, I was just getting started as a school teacher, and we just didn't have a lot of disposable income.
Right. And
he would always be after me about, what am I saving? And I said, Sam, I can't. He said exactly what you said. It's a habit. and you have to develop the habit. He said, try this. He said, this is where my wife and I started. Every night when you come home, take whatever change you have in your pocket and put it away in a jar or wherever you want to save it, and start that way. Just start that way. And then he said, if you want to move up to, okay, when I come home, if I got a couple dollars in my pocket, I can add that to it if it's under $5. And then as I grow, now if I come home and I have $5 in my pocket, I'll put that away. And that, I tell everybody, as a matter of fact, Derrick had told me he had some conversation with you, and I was explaining to him just how I started. And that helped us develop the habit of saving. And then what most people don't realize, Silas, is that when you start to save your money and then all of a sudden you see it growing, you don't want to spend your money on just anything. And you don't want to really touch it because you like seeing it grow. But that's a personal story of mine, that actually connects to what you're talking about.
Well, and that's exactly right. And you sit down with these people. Most people tell me they can't afford to save any money, and they tell me from $1,000 iPhone.
Right.
That's true.
You can afford to save it. You just need to change your habits.
Exactly.
And so we can all afford a $15 a month Netflix.
Right.
Subscription. But okay, let's go ahead and start saving $15 a month or $20 a month. And it starts to build on itself, and it becomes a habit. And you're right, it gets addicting. Just like going to the gym gets addicting.
Right.
You like to see progress.
Right.
So Silas, couple of things pop into my mind, because for me, and I'm pretty adamant about, especially coming from a community where resources has been a little bit of a challenge, and trying to figure out how to leverage so that we can, retire and enjoy our lives and do all the things that we're supposed to do. And so, obviously I know that you run Pinnacle Elite. I know that's one of the organizations that you represent, but not only that, I want you to kind of take us, from step A to step Z, kind of outlining what that looks like so we can get a blueprint so people who are listening to the show can get some information.
Yes, sir. So when it comes to building a financial plan and sitting down with them, we have a 6-step process. It starts with cash flow. That's almost always where we need to start. With the cash flow step, we're looking at how can we budget money, track expenses, cut back on expenses, things like cutting out subscriptions. Anything to cut back on expenses and put more money in their pocket every month. Sometimes it's, hey, how can we help you make more money? Because you're just not making enough.
Right.
And so that's cash flow. There's a lot of ways that we can help with that. But the biggest reason that most people don't track a budget is it's not convenient. And we live in the 21st century. It's got to be convenient, has to be easy and accessible. And so finding convenient ways to track that, we have apps that we utilize. And then going from cash flow to debt management. Most people are drowning in debt. And so anything we can do to help build their credit score, cut back on their debts, and cut down, especially high interest debts, consolidate, refinance, anything we can do to help them get out of debt faster, paying the least amount in interest, and really teaching the importance of compounding interest and how it relates to debt.
Absolutely.
So I have a question, because I don't know. Tell me about compounding interest. I've never heard. What does that mean?
Yeah, please explain that to him, because I was explaining it to him and he didn't follow it. But it took me a while to follow it as well. So, boy, that's a great question that our audience would love.
For sure. So first, I'll start with a little analogy. If you took Lake Michigan and drained it, and then you took an ounce of water and you put it in Lake Michigan and you doubled it every day, in the first 65 years, it would be damp. In 75 years, it would have puddles. In 80 years, it would be 40 feet deep. In 85 years, it would be totally full. That's the power of compounding interest.
Okay.
So if you take, we have a rule, we call it the rule of 72. You take 72 and divide it by whatever interest rate you're looking at. And that's how long it's going to take for that money to double one time. And so if I have, 1, doubled is 2, doubled is 4, doubled is 8, 16, 32, 64. It starts to grow dramatically. So you take 72. If I'm getting 10% interest on an account, my money's going to double every 7.2 years. If I'm getting 6%, my money's going to double every 12 years. The difference that's going to make, if I'm 29 years old and I have $10,000, I put it into an account earning 6%, it's going to be about $80,000 by the time I hit retirement age. If I'm getting 10%, it's only 4% more, but due to compounding interest, that same 10,000 will be over 600,000 by retirement age.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's big. That's big right there, just so you know.
But it works the same way with debt.
Right. Absolutely.
That's the big issue. People get credit cards, things with compounding interest.
Right.
And they don't understand why they're making their minimum payments on their credit cards for 10 years and their debt hasn't gone down any. And it's that compounding interest working against them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think when you start talking about financial literacy, in particularly in the minority communities, people just don't understand that.
Right.
It's like, come on. They just don't believe it, and they don't understand. It took me a while to really understand this statement that time is money. Mm-hmm. I just thought putting in time working was money. No, putting in time, letting your money work for you is really what you're trying to do. Right. And that explains it very, very, very well. Very well.
I'll oftentimes show my clients because everyone says, let's wait another 6 months. Let's wait till I'm in a little better situation financially, and tomorrow never comes. We all know that.
Exactly.
I'll show them a compound interest calculator. So you can go online, you can find any compound interest calculator and just put in, hey, I'm $1,200 a year for 40 years at whatever interest rate, 10% interest. And then calculate that and see that number and then reduce it from 40 years to 39 and a half years and see what kind of difference it makes. It's huge.
Yeah. Wow.
That's what I always show young people when I'm showing them that they need to start now. They can start small, but start now.
Absolutely.
That's good.
I mean, I've always told a lot of young people I talk to, had I started when I should have started, I would have really had some real money. But I was thinking just like they were thinking, hey, this $25 a month, that's not going to, man, if I would have started in my 20s and you start going and that interest starts to compound, and as you know, I saw it happen. I worked for years for Tom Izzo, and he told me I really started saving here, and we used to talk finances a lot. And he says, Mike, you just got to get to 100,000. When you get there, you're ready. You're gonna roll, man. You'll see it grow, and you'll be like, whoa. But you got to be patient enough to get to the 100,000.
Right.
And no, I was just gonna say, and I think that comes back to being disciplined, right? You got to have discipline to make that happen. And so, and I don't want to. I know I took us off track because I wanted to learn, but I also want you to keep going because I want the listeners to get more information because I think this is a show that really can help people who struggle financially. And I know I struggle financially. And so I want other people to understand that there's a process, and obviously you have the process, what it looks like. And I think it's important that we educate our listeners.
Absolutely. And I'll give a couple of tips today as we're going through the podcast. But one of them right away is if you want to start really seeing some money saved, pack a sandwich to work instead of eating at Hardee's.
And I love Hardee's.
People think it's only $5 or $10. No big deal. $15. It adds up quick. And so when I got married and my wife started packing my lunches, That was just one thing that I cut out, is eating out at restaurants. And you figure, $10 or $15 a day, 5 days a week, $50 to $75 a week.
Yep.
$200 to $300 a month. Adds up quick. The easiest way to spend $10,000 a year is $27.40 a day.
Yeah.
You can save $10,000 a year just by saving $27.50 a day.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? It's crazy. Silas, would you be willing to take a moment and demonstrate, I guess, in reverse progression, when I buy my house for $100,000, but by the time on a 30-year fixed mortgage of whatever you make up the interest rate, by the time I'm done, I've paid $300, or maybe, depending on the interest rate, $400,000 for an item that I bought for $100,000.
Right.
And see, people, they don't even look at it. They have no idea. But if you could talk about that, and that's where goes back to what you said, how compounding interest can work for you in reverse when you have debt.
Mm.
And we'll hit on a couple of different things, because one of the things that we do is we bring a lot of, we teach a lot of paradigm shifts, cause a lot of paradigm shifts when it comes to finance, because there's a lot of misconceptions in finance that people just don't understand. So when you're looking at debt, for instance, a mortgage, there's a lot of people out there that will teach, hey, go get a 15-year mortgage, put a max down payment, pay off your mortgage as quick as you can.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense in some instances. But before I got into finance, I was making double payments on my mortgage, trying to get it paid off as quick as I could. Right. I had a 3.8% interest rate.
Right.
And then what I've learned since being in finance, why would I pay off a 3.8% interest if inflation is 3 to 4% average per year? When I could take that same money and invest it somewhere, let's say earning a 10% interest, I'm paying 3.8, but I'm earning 10. And then I can take that money and use it to pay off my mortgage 15 years down the road.
Right.
So we actually build out calculations to show people the difference that it's going to make in the long run. You will come out way further ahead. But where the problem is, and that's why I say high interest debts, because if you have a mortgage that is, and obviously don't go get low interest debts that you don't need, because it'll still work against you.
Absolutely.
But if you have a mortgage and it's an 8% interest, and you're only earning 8% in an account, then you start factoring, hey, what does that 8% look like? And you're right, 100,000 will turn into 300,000 or 400,000 by the time you pay it off.
Right.
Where I see the biggest issue is vehicles and credit cards. Vehicles are actually, in my opinion, the biggest. And here's why. Yes. People will have a vehicle payment. They will have it until they've just about paid it off, and they go trade it in and get another one.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And vehicle interest rates range anywhere from, I've seen 2-3% all the way to the highest I've ever seen is 22% on a vehicle loan.
Right.
And so now you're out there buying a $60,000 vehicle, and you think, okay, it's just $60,000. I'm going to drive this nice vehicle. It's $800 a month payment. And what they're not realizing is that by the time they've paid it off, they've paid $80,000 or $90,000.
Absolutely.
In interest, and they go and trade it in and get another one.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. This is good information. This is great information.
Yeah. Most people, they just don't understand that. And Derrick will tell you this. Personally, I do not drive a brand new car. I buy used vehicles, and when I buy them, I pay for it.
Right.
So I have no more payment, nothing else into the game, into the cost of the vehicle, other than some minor maintenance and gas.
Right.
Because those car notes will just eat you alive. I mean, they do. Now I can't afford, I don't do that with my wife. We do lease a vehicle for her, We kind of control that payment that way. But man, if I could get her to do it, I would do it for her too. But she don't. She doesn't trust it. But then again, that's only one of the. We don't, other than some investment properties we own. We don't have any debt.
Right.
I cleared myself of debt years ago.
Excellent.
And as you know, when you do that, you free yourself of debt. And a lot of those items that people, they want the Gucci purse or the nice shoes or this or that. Well, and I was telling Derrick this the other day, you get your funds built up, and then you have some leeway to do those kind of things. Without it, you become your own bank.
Right.
Is what I explained to him.
Absolutely. And when you start saving money, like you said, it's addicting.
Oh yeah.
Stop spending it. You don't want to. I've never had a car payment personally. I never want one.
Good for you.
Never want one, never had one. But the thing is, I know people I have friends who make a lot of money, very wealthy, making 8 figures a year. And they drive 2-year-old vehicles.
Yeah.
One of them, one of my mentors, he was giving me advice, financial advice. And he said, here's the thing. I might make 8 figures a year, but I buy all my vehicles 2 years old because I'm going to let someone else pay the depreciation. He said,
absolutely.
Don't know how finances work. They can pay the depreciation for me.
Wow. That's education right there, though.
And expound on that a little bit more, Silas, so that our audience will understand what you're saying about someone else paying the appreciation.
Yes.
In layman's terms.
I'll give you an example. A perfect example is my wife and I are looking for a new SUV. We have 4 children, and so looking for another SUV. But we really like the Lincoln Navigators, and so we went to a car lot and we drove a 2023 Lincoln Navigator. And he told me, he said, I can get you off the lot. We're running a special. We'll get you off the lot for $110,000. Well, you'll get somebody else off the lot for $110,000, but not me. I'm just here to drive them and see if we like them.
Right.
And so did a little research online. You can buy a 2-year-old Lincoln Navigator with the exact same vehicle with 40 or 50,000 miles and get it for 50 or 55.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Wow.
It's nuts.
You can buy a vehicle for half price by purchasing it 2 years old with 40 or 50,000 miles. And so when you figure that's how much it depreciated in 2 years. If I bought it brand new 2 years from now, that vehicle's worth $55,000 less. That means I lost $55,000 in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so what I do and what I would recommend everyone you do with your vehicles, whether they're used, new, doesn't matter, figure out how much you paid for your vehicle, how much you're paying in maintenance, and then calculate dollar per mile. And so what I do is I figure I have a Suburban. I've put about 50,000 miles on it since I bought it. It's cost me about $10,000. That means that I'm paying about 20 cents per mile.
Wow.
Right.
If I went and drove that Lincoln Navigator, figure I had it for 2 years, I put 50,000 miles on it, and I lost $50,000 worth of value. I'm paying $1 per mile.
Right.
5 times as much.
No, this is good. This is good information, man. This is good.
Very good information. Not just good. It's very good information. And sometimes the toughest situations to deal with are people that really have some additional resources where they can make their money work for them. It's amazing because really they're talking about a lifestyle that they think that they want or they are entitled to have because of the amount of money they make. So that I understand exactly what you're saying.
So I have a couple ideas, Silas, and I really want you to process and think about it because we keep talking about financial education, financial literacy. And one of the things that we always ask to our guests is if you had a message that you could share with the audience, something that you think would be important. And then also an action item that you think we need to start sharing with the people who are listening, because I think all that stuff's important. What would your response be? Because, we're students. I'm learning just like everybody else. So please open it up.
Yeah. So I'm going to say 4 things that I've learned over the past several years through mentors and being in finance, in business. And this is not just about finance. This is about life in general. First one is stop taking advice from people who aren't living the life you want to live. So many of us take advice from people who are in the same situation we are. And it's the blind leading the blind.
Right.
And they'll keep us where we're at.
That's
Second thing is, if you want to be in the 1%, look at the 99%, see what they're doing, and do the exact opposite.
Right. Absolutely.
Third thing is, leaders are readers.
Mm-hmm.
You need to read more. Most people, there are so many books out there that have been written with a lot of great information. And if you want to change finance, what we're talking about here, it's mindset shifts. If you want to change your mindset, start reading.
Right.
There's a lot of great books out there. Just start reading.
That's good.
And then they'll really start changing mindsets. And then the fourth one is start saving. Start saving somewhere. It's a muscle.
Yes.
But just start. Even if it's $5 a week, start saving. I have 2 kids that are 5 and 3. My 2 older ones are 5 and 4. He just turned 4. But we already started them learning this and building this muscle. So my wife and I put together a plan where we said, hey, we want our kids to start learning how money works from a young age. And so at 5 and 4 years old, we pay them weekly, but we don't pay them allowances. They have a checklist of things that they have to do. And if they do these things, then they get paid individually on those different items. At the end of the week, we figure out where they're at and we pay them that amount of money. Then they have to save 50% to start.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That's quite steep.
They save 50%.
Yeah. Wow.
They give away 25%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they can spend 25%.
Gotcha.
So, and then what my wife and I said is, hey, we're not gonna buy you anything else that you don't need. We're gonna buy everything you need, but when it comes to toys or those things you want, that's your money that you're spending.
Absolutely.
Out of their spending allowance. And so now they spend their money. And guess what? It didn't take more than a couple of weeks before they don't want to spend their money.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
They learn how to budget is what I'm hearing you say.
And they're learning from a young age to save. My son wants to save up for a dirt bike.
Right.
And he won't spend his money on anything because he's saving for a dirt bike.
Absolutely.
Months at 4 years old.
Right. It is so interesting how, even kids at a young age, once they start saving their money and they see that growth of that money, they even at a young age, they don't want to spend money. And it's you talked about at the start of our podcast, you were saying that schools don't teach, financial literacy within our school systems. And I have a theory about that. The 1% can't be the 1% if the 99% just don't refuse to live a life as consumers. It's interesting to and I want to hear your perspective on this. It's interesting to hear people talk about, like, even the price of gas. Oh, the price of gas. Oh, it's so much up. What's the president going to do? Well, number one, the president doesn't own any of the oil companies. Number two, that's in our hands as consumers. Oh, what do you mean, Coach? I even, and I think you may agree with this. if everybody in the country said, okay, you know what? For the next 10 days, I'll never put more than $30 of gas in my car per day, or even a day, or a week. Now, if you do it as a week, you know what will happen. 1 week, that's all it would take. And that gas price would be down at a price where they wouldn't believe it. People wouldn't believe it. They don't know that they do it to themselves. We do that to ourselves. All we got to do is just collectively, it's supply and demand. It's simple. It's simple. But to blame it on the president, that's nuts. That's nuts. Yeah. But I'd just like to hear your perspective on something like that.
So I think you would agree that human nature is to blame someone else or something else for all of our problems.
Right.
It's just what humans automatically want to do is put the blame somewhere else. And so I absolutely agree. First of all, it's supply and demand. We live in a consumer society. And when you're looking at how expensive things have gotten, and everyone's always telling me, hey, price of gas, price of food, inflation, the biggest inflation is lifestyle inflation.
Absolutely.
Right. Because no matter how much money we make, we're all out there spending it.
Amen.
And if we just stopped spending money and started saving our money, prices would come down.
Absolutely. There's no inflation.
Right.
You can sit there and listen to the pundits on television and everybody else, all these economic advisors and experts, just collectively as a community or as a nation, just you know what, I'm not gonna spend but $50 a week on groceries. Watch. Or if the price of eggs go to $8 like it did, you know what? Nobody buying on eggs.
Right.
It wouldn't take, I tell people even this, and people who make money don't like to lose money. They don't like to lose money for a couple of minutes, let alone a day,
right,
or a week. You do that one day, that price will fall drastically.
Absolutely. Sure. So I have one more question, then I'm really turn it over to and maybe conclude the show. But I really want to honor you for being on the show. I really want to honor you for taking time to. I really want you to highlight Pinnacle Elite and talk about what you're currently doing, because I think that's important. And I also want people to maybe tune in, so you also can provide your information. So tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing.
For sure. So when it comes to Pinnacle Elite and really what got me here in this company, in the industry, I grew up in lower middle class America. I grew up about an hour from Canada in Maine. Notice my last name, it's French.
Right.
And so I grew up about an hour from Canada, and I tell people we were so poor, we couldn't pay attention. We definitely didn't have money. Had a great childhood, but didn't have money.
Right.
And so growing up, I saw a lot of great people struggling because they didn't understand how finances worked. And it came from small business management, worked in the trades industry for a while, and then from there transitioned into finance. But what we're doing here at the company, and really what attracted me to it, our whole crusade is no family left behind. And what that means for us is bringing financial education and the best in the industry to every American, no matter how much or how little money they make.
Wow.
And so with our company, what we've done is we've created the Amazon of finance. We all shop on Amazon. Some of us too much. Talk about consumerism. Some of us too much, but the reason we shop on Amazon is because it's easy and convenient. We can get any brand and any product in one place.
Right.
So in a world where everyone's telling us something different and there's all these biases, what we do and really the value that we bring with our company is when we sit down with an individual or a business, we bring all the companies, over 190 A-rated companies in the industry, essentially all your heavy hitters, all sides of the industry, every product, every brand, every service. And when we sit down with our client now, instead of trying to sell the products of a company, we get to represent our clients, focus on financial education and really teaching them how products and services and strategies work. Where most people out there, they want to say, hey, here's a plan, set it up and trust the professional. We're out there actually teaching financial education. and providing that with the Amazon analogy, providing everything in one place. And so our company's really exploded over the past 2 decades. We've taken over the financial industry, but the reason is it's hard to compete with a company that represents your products.
Right.
But also represents every other company's products.
Right. Absolutely.
And so when we sit down with a client, we're able to bring that financial education and planning for every individual. There's no minimums for someone to work with us. And all of our, this is going to sound unbelievable, but all of our financial consulting, education, and planning is 100% complimentary for the individual, for the consumer.
Wow.
Just like Amazon, where we don't pay Amazon to purchase a product from their platform. The vendors allot part of their profit margin to go to Amazon for being able to market off the platform.
Right.
Same thing with us. These companies pay us. We do enough business. They pay us to be able to be represented on our platform.
Okay.
So we never have to charge a client.
Yeah.
Consulting.
Right. Boy, that's fantastic. And that's, yeah, you know, you guys are in the continuation of your company, you know, you're going to soon be able to totally change the game.
Right.
Totally change the game.
And for listeners, currently we are in every state in the country, the U.S. We are in all of Canada and Puerto Rico. Our goal is to eventually be worldwide, but right now we're in Canada and the U.S.
Okay.
That's phenomenal. Well, Silas, it's been great to have you as part of our show, and we look forward to having you back again soon. We're going to actually start to try to have some listener interaction on our podcast, where people can call in and ask, you know, their own questions. So, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right.
We again, you know, it was great having you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And mentioning Amazon, folks, before we actually close the show, as some of you may already know, as of January 1st, New Year's Day, my book was released, and you can now pick it up on Amazon by typing in Amazon.com, type in the name of my book, Agoji, and my name, Michael Garland, Garland, and you'll be able to purchase it. $25 for the paperback and $9.99 for those of you who really like the ebook. But as well, right now we have a limited offer going where you could pick up a signed copy of my book by going to Maximum Execution with an X and an E behind it .com/book. And when you, of course, when you go there and order, I will get your order. I will personally sign and autograph your copy
Absolutely.
of my book, Agoji. And for those of you that are Spartan fans, or those of you that are basketball fans, my background with Tom Izzo begins way back when we were 18-year-olds. And there are stories here and moments that you really wouldn't know about. Even our beat writer for over, oh boy, the 23 years that I was there, once he read my book, he was fascinated in that. I thought I knew everything, but this will tell you everything.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
You know what? Again, Silas, we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it. And folks, you know, tune in again. As I told you, we're back.
Excellent. Honored. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was, man. Yeah, it was, man. Yeah. We're going to have you back on. And, you know, hopefully we'll have a audience that will, we'll kind of advertise you.
Absolutely.
We're going to move forward with our podcast a little more. We kind of let it slip a little bit, but we'll move forward. And once we get that set up, where people can either call in or email in, and we can answer questions.